The Thermarest Xlite has never been the quietest or the most comfortable sleeping pad on the market, but for 2023, Thermarest has updated the Xlite with the NXT version. Today I want to take a look at whether the new NXT version addresses any of the problems that the old version had while still maintaining its best-in-class warmth to weight ratio. I've been using a pre-release version of the Xlite for several months now and have a pretty good idea on whether it's an improvement compared to the old version and whether it's worth upgrading from the old version to the NXT. Thermarest addressed two main things with the NXT: comfort and noise. We're going to start off talking about comfort and we'll get into noise a little bit later. The first thing that Thermarest did is they increased the thickness of the pad from 2.5 inches to 3 inches. For those side sleepers out there who may have found that their shoulder or hip were bottoming out on the old Thermarest Xlite, they're going to find that the new one is going to give you a little bit more cushion. That extra thickness is also going to give you a little bit more wiggle room if you adjust the firmness of the pad. If you like to let out a little bit of air from the pad in order to improve comfort, then you're going to have a little bit more thickness to play with. Personally, the extra thickness hasn't really been that noticeable, but I also found the 2.5 inches of the old version to be just fine. Thermarest has also released a few new shapes and sizes for the Xlite series of pads. I have here probably the most popular shape on the market. This is a 25-inch wide rectangular shaped pad in a regular length. For those of you familiar with the Nemo Tensor, this is the exact same shape as what the Nemo Tensor has. This size and shape that I have here is my personal favorite. You get a little bit more room at the head end and foot end compared to a mummy-shaped sleeping pad, and that's really nice to have as you move around and toss and turn on the sleeping pad. Thermarest also increased the warmth of the Xlite with an R-value bump from 4.2 to 4.5. In real-world conditions, the Xlite has outperformed all similarly rated pads that I have tested, and this R-value bump just solidifies its warmth reign. Thermarest achieved this R-value bump by refining the two technologies that they use inside the pad for insulation. The first one being a reflective film called thermocapture technology that helps with radiative heat loss, and cells made out of material within the sleeping pad called triangular core matrix that helps with convective heat loss. With the NXT versions of the Xlite, they're incorporating that reflective film into the triangular core matrix, and that's what's responsible for the R-value bump. I'm a little bit surprised that the R-value bump wasn't higher. I would think that there'd be more reflective film inside the sleeping pad now, and that would increase the R-value even more. And for that reason, I kind of think that maybe the R-value bump is just due to the added thickness of the pad. With those comfort improvements, the pad still uses horizontal baffles, which in my opinion is the least comfortable baffling system out there compared to vertical baffles like you see on X-Bed pads or the dimpled baffles that you see on Big Agnes and Sea to Summit pads. So if the horizontal baffles were a deal breaker for you in the past, then there's no change on that front. But the biggest deal breaker for most of you out there, based on comments that I've read, as well as reviews on sites like REI and Backcountry, is noise. The old Xlite was just super noisy. Basically sounds like a chip bag, and you hear stories out there of people keeping the person that is in the tent with them awake, or even other people in the campsite. With the Xlite NXT, Thermarest claims that they've reduced the noise by 80% to be 6 times quieter than the old version. And at first I believed them because they did testing in a sound room to get that number, but I had to take the pads side by side and test them for myself. So let's do a quick sound test ourselves. We'll start off with the old Xlite here. I have a mic right here on my chest, so you'll get a really good sense of how noisy it is. That's pretty chip baggy. That's definitely annoying. And while I didn't personally find it to be a problem because I sleep with earplugs, like I said, I know a lot of you had issues with the noise. Now for the Xlite NXT. Let's see whether Thermarest's claims of reduced noise hold up. To me, the NXT is significantly less noisy compared to the new version. I was actually blown away when I first got the NXT and inflated it and then tried to see what the noise levels were. When you bring it up especially and start just kind of playing with it, there's almost no noise. A lot of the noise that you were hearing was the bottom of the sleeping pad just rubbing on the rocks on the ground. Whereas if I bring up the old version and squeeze it, you can really hear that chip bagness and the crinkliness. And the reason for the reduced noise is the refined reflective thermocapture technology that we talked about earlier, and it worked. So bravo, good job Thermarest. The Xlite NXT still uses the same 30 denier ripstop nylon shell material. For the old version, it was bomb-proof for me, so I'm glad to see that they stuck with it. It also uses the same wing lock valve for inflation and deflation. Some people don't like this valve, but I've never had any problems with it and find that it performs really well, especially when paired with a flex tail pump. But the improvements to warmth and noise do come at a cost with the Xlite NXT. The regular Mummy version weighs 0.5 ounces more than the old version, bumping it up from 12 ounces to 12.5 ounces. If you're interested in a pad that has a little bit more comfort than the Xlite, then go check out this video where I compare the 3 most comfortable sleeping pads on the market. One of them has consistently allowed me to sleep through the night without waking up at all.